welcome back to my channel. My name is Kitty. I'm a registered general nurse and IBCLC International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. I'm also a birth and postpartum doula, a hypnobirthing instructor, antenatal educator, and called Mama by 3 little people. And today I'm going to tell you my top 5 tips to get breastfeeding off to a good start. My tip number 1 is to practice skin to skin until your baby has had their first feed. The reason for this is that skin to skin has so many lovely benefits. Not only does it help your baby to regulate their temperature, diversify their microbiome, help to regulate their blood sugar level, but it also encourages bonding between mum and baby, as well as the fact that it also helps to release hormones both in mum and in baby to get that first feed started. So get support with keeping your baby skin to skin, delaying things that aren't necessary. So checks like checking all of the newborn checks that they will do, checking baby's palate, checking their fingers and toes, their bottom, their weight. All of those can either be done up on mummy's chest or once baby's had their first feed. In an ideal world, I would even suggest waiting until baby has done their first sticky, tarry meconium poo so that you can get a really accurate birth weight. What happens if we weigh our baby when they've still haven't done that first meconium poo is then we oftentimes get a big fright once our baby has dropped that little bit of weight. And I know there's a lot of focus on breastfed babies' weight gain anyhow, so let's try and remove some of that stress and worry and get a really accurate. My tip number 2 is going to be room in with your baby. Whether you've had your baby by physiological vaginal delivery where you've gone into labour spontaneously, whether you've had an induction, whether you've had a forceps delivery or cesarean birth, we are all getting to know our new babies and getting to learn their cues. And the best way to do that is to spend that one-on-one time with your baby, watching them like a hawk, zoning in on every little hand to mouth movement, every kind of open mouth that they have that suggests to you that they might need to nurse at that time. Using that energy that they have to nurse will help to bring in your milk, to transition it from that sticky golden colostrum to the more mature milk, and will help get your breastfeeding journey off to the best start. So in a nutshell, every time your baby barely opens their eyes or makes the tiniest movement, offer them the breast. My next tip is to avoid, if we can, supplementary feedings. So in Ireland, we call this topping up. And one of the things with topping up or giving our baby extra formula in addition to the breast milk that they are getting is that we can end up in this top-up trap. It's very unusual that I see mums who require topping up or who simply don't make enough breast milk. And in that scenario, generally there's some sort of medical history going on, like some thyroid dysfunction, insufficient glandular tissue. We maybe will have PCOS or insulin resistance ongoing. So a lot of these mums I will be meeting prenatally before their baby actually arrives to make a plan with them. If that is you, touch base with a lactation consultant so that you can make that plan. But as a whole, majority of mamas, the way that milk is made and the way that whole process works is on a supply and demand system. So in this scenario, baby has just been born and our milk hasn't transitioned in yet. We want to be putting our baby to the breast as frequently as they look for it. And what they're doing is it's like you making that Friday night order for your takeaway. You have to make the phone call first before your food arrives. So what your baby is doing is they're putting in the order or the demand for more milk. And if we are using your baby's energy to suckle with them drinking from a bottle, what's happening is we're missing out on that stimulation at the breast. And so the message that gets sent to your brain is we don't need to make milk at this time. And so our supply overall is less. We run into more trouble then trying to move away from top-ups and increase our supply. So starting with the breast, unless there are any major concerns regarding your baby's weight or not. Okay, so this might come as a little bit of a surprise, but I want you to limit the use of swaddling and soothers or dummies in the early days. And the reason for that is quite simple for the dummies. We want to use that energy that your baby has to suckle to bring in and transition in your milk. So we want to use that to our advantage and help the breast to get the stimulation that it needs. With the swaddling, it's a very similar concept, except for the fact that our babies use their hands almost like a GPS system, not only to find the breast, but to latch on deeply. And when our babies are snuggled up tight like that, while it might give them that reminder of a womb-like environment, what it's actually telling our baby is we don't need to do a whole lot because we're snug in the womb still. Whereas when our baby's in the outside world, they do have to actively wake, find the breast and nurse at the breast to transfer the milk and the calories that they need. So we want to make sure that when it comes to swaddling, we are doing it in a way that we are still watching our baby's cues, that we are following our baby's cues, making sure that we are nursing enough times during the day. We're talking about 10 to 12 times minimum in 24 hours, that our baby is nursing efficiently and effectively to transfer the milk that they need. And while swaddling is a really lovely way to soothe babies, I would even go as far as to say for those first few days and weeks while you are getting breastfeeding off to the best start, because a baby who is swaddled won't wake as frequently, and it's maybe going to be a hindrance to your getting your breastfeeding journey off to the best start. Let's come back instead to the benefits of skin to skin, and maybe practicing skin to skin to soothe your baby instead of swaddling your baby is a better starting point. So the last tip that I have then is, instead of going ahead with breastfeeding and thinking you're doing everything right but still having sore nipples, or maybe you're feeling that your baby isn't getting enough at the breast, you can't hear them actively swallowing, you're concerned about their nappy output, or you can't feel your breast going from full to soft after feeding, then reach out for help. Instead of staying in your hospital bed worrying, call the bell, ask for a lactation consultant. They can come and see you. And if you don't have one in your hospital, touch base with me or another private lactation consultant who can give you the support as soon as you get home. Don't go worrying alone. There's lots of supports out there, and I hope that you get the support that you deserve. I love to remind mamas that while breastfeeding is natural, it's also a learned skill for every new mum and baby dyad. So get the support that you need, and I wish you all of the best.